Hello again. This is Andrew Biss, the writer, producer, director of The End of the World. And I'm here once more with the illustrious Mrs. Anna, who has once again graciously agreed to join me in providing you with some behind-the-scenes reveals and highlights from The End of the World. So, hello, Mrs. Anna. It's great to see you again.
What is this? I don't get it. I come in here and sit down, and you say, hello, Mrs. Anna, how great to see you again. Then you turn on that contraption there and say the same thing over again.
That's because our listeners weren't here when we initially got together today, so I just wanted to recreate, an introduction for their benefit, once I had the mic turned on.
It's fake. It's plastic. It's not real.
Well, it's more of a nice way to create a starting point, a sort of a jumping-off point.
It's very deceptive, very fraudulent. But is your show your conscience? I am not going to judge.
Well, good. So anyway, let's get right to it, shall we?
Wait a moment. I am very busy right now, so if I have to step away for a moment, you will just have to wait until I come back. I just want that to be clear.
Yes, by all means.
The dead come at all times. I cannot put the out of the office on in my line of work.
No, completely understand. So today I thought we'd talk about the cast and the casting of the show. Now, there are two things that any audio drama, any movie, any TV show has to have in order to work, and that's a great story and a great cast. You can't have one without the other. You can have a mediocre script with a stellar cast of actors, and it's still only going to end up being so-so. And likewise, a fantastic script with so-so actors is destined to disappoint. So, casting is critical. And I'm so glad they have an Oscar category for it now, by the way.
Oh, yes, me too, yes. The world is so cruel, so full of war and famine, the slaughter of the innocents, the climate in the death spiral, and no cure for cancer. But at least they have a little statue for the casting. It's a beautiful thing. It makes me feel all warm inside.
Yes, indeed. Now The End of the World is the second audio drama I've produced, the first being a show called Leah's Girls, which I'll talk about more another time. But with that show, I had 8 characters to cast, and I was absolutely terrified of the process. Because I knew that if I couldn't cast each one of those roles properly, the show wouldn't work, and I wouldn't have been able to move forward to produce it. But, fortunately, I was able to find 8 amazing actors to fill the roles. And I had to find 8 because I wasn't able to play any of the roles myself. I'd set the show in the American South, and I can't sustain an American accent for very long for the life of me. Which is strange when you consider I've spent the largest part of my life living in the US, but there you are. However, in The End of the World, I also had 8 roles to cast, but 3 of them I knew I could do myself. Those being the role of father, which was right in my wheelhouse, the man in black, ditto for him, and it was just a few lines anyway, and Monsignor Dave, who I initially modelled on the voice of the computer HAL 9000 from 2001: A Space Odyssey. So that left 5 roles to fill. But I only ended up casting 3 actors, and those 2 roles that I didn't have cast almost ended up derailing the whole production.
I think you are being a little over-dramatic.
I'm sorry?
You are sounding a little over the top, I think.
No, I'm not, I assure you. I mean, it was literally touch and go for the future of the show at one point if I couldn't cast those 2 roles in the way I needed, the way I needed to.
No, I don't buy it. I think you writer types like to make the big dramas, to make the molehills from the mountain.
No, I swear to you, that was literally the case.
I think maybe you are worried that this is boring.
What?
I am not a psychiatrist. This is not my field, but I think, yes, perhaps you are concerned that the listeners are getting bored with your yap. And is understandable. And so you try to make the big deal from nothing.
Mrs. Anna, I can assure you that if I wasn't able to cast the way I need...
The doorbell. Excuse me, I have to go. Just try to keep them entertained while I'm gone. If possible.
Yes, I'll do my best. Actually, that's quite fortuitous. as while Mrs. Anna's gone, I can talk about the difficulties I came up against in trying to cast her role. Now, Mrs. Anna's character is fundamental to the show. She's a big, larger-than-life character who essentially steers Valentine and us through his whole odyssey. In many respects, she is the personification of the end-of-the-world bed and breakfast, and all that it represents. So I placed a casting notice in one of the big trade publications, along with the other roles I was looking to fill, and received a pretty decent number of auditions. However, even putting the accent I was looking for aside, none of them seemed to be able to manifest that gruff, cantankerous, rather intimidating character that I was looking for. I mean, I was very grateful for their auditions, of course, but unfortunately none of them had it. Not even close, if I'm being honest. And, as the days went by and the auditions trickled to a stop, my mind eventually wandered back to my previous audio drama, Leah's Girls. Now, I know I said that I didn't act in that show, but that's not entirely true. In the final episode, I needed a voice for a 911 responder heard over the phone, and I wanted it to be a woman. It was just a few lines, and I didn't want to go to all the trouble of auditioning actors for such a small part, so I decided to have a go at it myself. I did my lines in my best southern accent, trying to sound more female, and then went to work with my audio workstation to change the pitch in order to make it sound more feminine. Well, my voice is naturally deep, as you can hear. And it seemed to work. She ended up sounding like some tough old broad who liked her cigarettes and bourbon. Either that or a slightly campy gruff guy. Anyway, to my ears, it worked. So, based on that, I thought, why not have a stab at Mrs. Anna myself, since I more than anyone knew how I wanted her to sound. And she was already described in the script as robust and like a father figure, among other things, so it seemed like it might work. But then there was the accent. It was originally described in the script, or I described it in the script, as being suggestive of Scandinavian in origin. But after I made a few attempts at it, after consulting a few YouTube instructional videos, I realized that it just didn't work. The problem was the sing-song nature of a lot of Scandinavian speech patterns just didn't suit her curmudgeonly attitude. And since I knew I'd find it nearly impossible to maintain any one particular accent anyway, I decided it would be a mixture of several, whatever came naturally to whatever I was saying at any given moment. Which makes sense, after all, as she represents all of humanity, or at least she ushers it all through her premises, post-mortem. But I didn't think of any particular accents when I was recording her. I just did what came naturally. I just did what I thought sounded like her. But I think there's a lot of German sounds in there, and some Eastern European, a little Italian, and even a little bit of Irish now and then. And as I say, I think if I had to... Oh! Ah, Mrs. Anna.
All right, I'm back.
Jolly good. All as it should be, I hope?
What? Yes. It was a very odd-looking gentleman by the name of Jeffrey Epstein.
Oh.
Very strange. I did not get a good feeling. Anyway, I sent him up to the back bedrooms on the top floor to get them settled. That will be him now.
Right. Okay, well, why don't you give me one of the questions on the list I gave you?
Yes, just wait a second. Yes, what was your inspiration for writing The End of the World?
Oh, no, that's from our previous discussion. I think you need to fast forward a bit.
As if it matters. Wait a moment. These questions are so boring. How difficult was it to cast the main character of Valentine?
Ah, that's a very good question.
Why would you say that? It's your question.
Well, yes, I know.
So you like to flatter yourself now, eh? Oh, I write such wonderful questions. They are very, very good. I am so clever at the questions.
Yes, well, anyway, the thing is, I thought the casting of Valentine would be the easiest of the three roles I was seeking to fill. Remember, I already had 2 actors in mind for 2 of the parts, since his character was the most straightforward and, well, normal, for want of a better word. However, that did not turn out to be the case, at least not at first. And I should mention here that when I originally wrote the story, it was meant as a sort of valentine to life itself, the beauty of it and the value of it. I know that sounds a bit cheesy, but that was my motivation for writing it. And that's why Valentine was given that name. And he was also, loosely, based on me. Not the person at the age I was when I wrote it, but my younger self, my late teens, early 20s self, who was, generally speaking, a rather shy, polite young man that didn't like to make waves, but who would always stand firm on a point of principle. So I wrote Valentine as a rather staid, bookish, not dull exactly, but just not bubbly or perky, as he says so himself in the story. More of a pedestrian sort of character. And I needed him to be that way too, as a good foil and contrast to the larger-than-life characters he's surrounded by. Is everything all right?
What? Oh, yes. I'm just looking for the next question. To be ready to move things along.
Oh, right. Well, so with that in mind, I imagined the casting of him would be relatively simple. However, as the auditions began rolling in, I was soon disabused of that assumption. And maybe it was my fault for the way I described his character in the audition notice. I don't know. I don't remember. But staid and undemonstrative are one thing, but most of what I was getting just sounded catatonic, frankly, and robotic. And I was left feeling rather dismayed and disheartened. I mean, how could what I thought was such a relatively straightforward character be so challenging to cast? And then, one fine morning, I received an audition from a young man named Jackson Campbell, and everything changed. But here's the thing. Everything I thought I wanted the character to sound like was not what I was hearing from Jackson's audition. Instead of calm and reserved, I heard excited and enthusiastic. I was confused, taken aback, and then thrilled, overjoyed, because I realized, after the shock wore off, that this was exactly how Valentine should sound. Not the way I was thinking of it, but the way Jackson was. He brought this energetic, youthful enthusiasm to the role that made the character so much more engaging and endearing. And, consequently, the story, too. I'd never felt more happy to be proved wrong. Being able to cast Jackson in that role was truly a gift. And, on top of that, he's also an incredibly kind and wonderful person to work with. So anyone out there looking for an actor who's incredibly talented and a joy to work with, Jackson's your guy.
Okay, next question.
Okay.
What was your inspiration for writing The End of the World?
No, Mrs. Anna, that you've gone back to... We've already... That's from before. You're on the wrong page again.
Oh, my apologies. They all sound the same to me. Let me see. Why was casting Luca such an ordeal?
Oh, yes. And it was an ordeal. And it was almost exactly the same problem I was having with the casting of the person that I mentioned earlier.
What was this?
Oh, just something I'd been discussing while you were gone.
Ah, okay. Don't worry. No need to go back over stuff. Just keep it moving, eh? Move it along.
Yes. Well, as I said, I was having a very similar situation with the casting of Luca that I had with the other character. And as with her, I'd had many auditions for the part, many with great European accents, a lot of them authentic, but not one of them had the quality in the delivery that I needed. You see, I had in mind a very deadpan, but still dramatic-sounding vocal delivery, which sounds contradictory, I know, but I wanted a sort of Garbo-esque, Marlene Dietrich-esque quality to the character. And unfortunately, none of the actors came close. And again, maybe that was my fault, maybe I was at fault for the way I described the character in the audition notice, but there it was. So, again, as with the other character, I decided to have a go at it myself, thinking that perhaps if I contorted and feminized my voice enough, I could up the pitch level even more and have something close to what I was looking for. And I was wrong. I made countless attempts at it, once even sitting on the floor of my recording space and stretching my neck upwards towards the microphone in the hope of getting it to sound right. But nothing worked. So I went back and re-listened to all the auditions again, desperate to find just one who I might be able to coach and direct into what I needed. But then, hearing them back again, I knew it wasn't going to work. The main problem with my own recordings of Luca was that no matter how much I tried to change my voice, once I applied the pitch, I still ended up sounding like a variation of the other character. They just sounded too similar. So my choice was to use one of the auditionees, knowing it wasn't going to sound how I knew it should, or use my own recording and have it sound like the other character, which would have been quite confusing to the listeners, I think. But then, after a little research, I came across a filter that could feminize your own recorded voice. I tried it out just as an experiment and with, frankly, few expectations, and I could hardly believe my ears. It was my performance, my intonations and delivery exactly, just made more female sounding. I mean, problem solved, anxiety over. The only thing left to do at that stage was to change the pitch once more, but this time in the opposite direction, as I wanted the voice to have a deeper sound to it than the filter had given it, that Garbo Dietrich thing I was after. And then Luca was born. So, in the audio clip I'm about to play for you here, you'll first hear my original recording of a line from Luca, and then a second version of it after having the filter applied, and then finally a third version after my having lowered the pitch of the voice and added a little reverb. Here we go. Very well, if it makes such a difference to you. My name is Luca. I live on the second floor.
Very well, if it makes such a difference to you. My name is Luca. I live on the second floor.
Very well, if it makes such a difference to you. My name is Luca. I live on the second floor.
Pretty amazing, huh? My voice, my performance, just tinkered with. And so, in the end, after much grief and stress, no compromise was needed, and I got the very Luca I'd wanted. Phew.
And there we have it. It was very, very interesting. But unfortunately, we need to draw things to a close now.
Actually, I think there's one more question left on the list, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, give me strength. This is never ending. It's like torture. Pure torture.
It should be right under the last question you gave me.
Okay. Something about the mother and Hank. I can't read properly now. My eyes are getting bored.
Yes. Well, I think we went over the casting of the wonderful Christine Rendell, who plays Mother, in our last discussion. So let's just move straight on to Hank, who was played by the incredible Todd Weekly. Now, Todd had performed in my previous audio drama, Leah's Girls. He played a character named Wally, and he just blew me away with his performance. He really was fantastic in it. And the character of Hank had some similarities with that of Wally. So I already knew he'd be the perfect actor for the role. And of course, when he agreed to do it, I was over the moon. And, as I knew he would, he completely nailed it. I think the Hank episode is one of my favorites. It's just so out there, but at the same time, it makes complete sense in its own peculiar way. And Todd, by the way, is not only phenomenally talented, he's also the consummate professional and wonderful to work with.
Well, there we are. I think we have reached the end of our time. Sadly.
Yes, indeed, I think we have. So, I'd just like to say thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed The End of the World. And if you'd like to support us, don't forget to leave a rating or review for it wherever you listen to your podcasts. Tell your friends and spread the word about it, and that will help us to bring you more unique and intriguing shows in the future.
Okay, that's enough.
And Mrs. Anna, perhaps you'd like to say a few parting words to our listeners before you
No,
get
no,
back
I
to
just
see to
want
all
to
of
turn
your
off
very
this
important
contraption.